speaker for the day is Siddharth Botra, the ED and Senior FM of Ambit Capital. So put your hands together and invite them, and to talk about him, a few words is that he specializes in, and his more specializations on the technical side of the industries, and his strategies and insight on investment decision making. So we look forward to hear more about you, sir. Please have your seat. And the next speaker is Nitin Menon, co-founder of NV Capital. Yes, friends, put your hands together and invite Nitin Menon. So he has 20 years of experience. By profession, he's a chartered accountant. In the past 15 years, his focus on one of the unexplored industry, which is media and entertainment sector. And something more interesting about, he has a marquee investor, the superstar Rajinikanth of the South Side, and Dhanush as well. So I think I'm excited to know more insight on that. And some of the film and OTT content investments done. How many of you seen this movie called MS Dhoni? The Untold Story, The War, Yuri, and Robo 2.0. So these are some of the milestones which they have invested and participated in. So again, once again, you can give a big round of applause for Nitin Menon. Next is Vikas Agarwal, the founder and CEO of PMS AIF Expert. So MBA graduate with 2 decades of experience. And one thing I got inspired from him is that his presence in social media, because we have been talking a lot about social medias. So he has shared his insight through various podcasts, webinars, and many more. So looking forward to hear more about you, sir. And the next is Bhavdeep Bhatt, the CEO of Northern Arc. Bhavdeep? Yes, sir. So he is veteran in finance industry for 25 plus years, and most importantly, his interest in innovating the product for the MFDs, for the distribution channel was his key strength. So again, you can give a round of applause for him. So we will know a lot of insight about the innovation happening in the industry. And to grab the best out of them all, we have Alok Vohra. Alok Vohra, yes, my good friend, and also his creativity always inspired us. So he's from Growth Leaders with 22 years of experience in wealth and distribution channel. And one of the something fascinating about him is his heartful mentoring for the next generation, nurturing them with creative ideas and showing them and giving them the direction. That's his inspiration, which is changing many lives. So looking forward to hear you from all. So over to you, Alok Vohra.
Can you all hear me? Hi, can you hear me? Awesome, right. How's the Josh? Yeah, I think some of your friends are still outside. You may want to grab them, bring them in. I'm not going to oversell the session right now, but trust me, if I have to say something from my heart, this session, when Kanak invited me over, was me going back into history. I started my career in mutual fund industry in 2001. And I was just telling Kanak that ऐसा लग रहा है कि ना पूरा मतलब वो time machine में travel करके वापस चला गया हूँ. There was a point in 2001-2 when I would speak about mutual funds. I used to be with a company called Prudential ICICI Mutual Fund then. And nobody would, sort of entertain me. Everybody was into FDs and, all sorts of instruments and products and all. And the biggest thing was, my biggest grudge was against my own zonal manager. I won't name her, because she hadn't told me that just a few months ago, there was a massive, Ketan Parekh related something going on. And the sentiments were very weak. Okay? So from there, going to every MFD, every distributor, knocking the door and not getting any appointments, saying, abhi nahi sunna hai, abhi nahi karenge. Mutual fund to chit fund hai, and so on and so forth, right? So last 2 days when I was here talking to many of you, I could not here like literally in so many words, ye chit fund hai, alternates, AIFs and all, but the underlying sentiment somewhere was, karna hai, par yaar pata nahi, par kaise hoga, par myth hai, or risk hai and all that, right? So what a day, perfect day today with some of the stalwarts. Vikas, I know him since last 10 years plus. Bhavdeep has been my ex-colleague. Siddharth Botra has been my senior from school, coincidentally. And Envy, Mr. Nitin Menon, of course, I love movies, OTTs. So fantastic panel. I am overall part of the Neo group, Neo Wealth. We are into wealth and asset management. And without much ado, let me just kick off the session, right? So how are you all feeling? What are your expectations from us today? All the panels have happened. They have been like one-way monologue, but I also keep engaging, coming back to the audience, asking you questions. I hope you are all fine with it, right? So the way I have structured it is that 20 minutes crisp Q&A, max 25, and I'm going to leave some room for the audience as well to ask Q&As, right? So that आपके मन में जो भी सवाल जवाब है about alternates, PMS, AIF, सब पूछ डालिए आज. अच्छा मौका है. So on that note, let me go to Siddharth first. And so Siddharth, you have been a stalwart in the industry, earlier with Motilal Oswal and then a transition to Ambit Capital. How has been this shift and what exactly is happening at Ambit Capital under your watch?
Yeah, great. Thanks.
And a little bit about Ambit Capital as well.
Sure, thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm delighted to be here to get this opportunity to, present, about our company, about AIF here. And thanks, Alok, for this opportunity. So, in a way, I could kind of relate to what you mentioned, that the thoughts you had when you used to market mutual funds 15, 20 years back is very similar to where I think AIFs stand today. So AIFs is something, which essentially would come in once, you cater more to the higher net worth or more to the people with net worth, which is, where they start thinking in terms of writing, say, more crores of check and so on. And with that respect, it brings in its own advantage. You can be more niche. You can cater to particular kind of requirements that your investors have. And more importantly, you can be, from a time-wise, very different. So yesterday, you would have seen so many people speak, on mutual fund. And I couldn't help but notice one of the things which came out in common across, many of them was increasingly mutual funds is getting commoditized. You have particular segments, more or less, most of the funds in that particular vertical mimic its, the entire zone. I think in that respect, AIF is like a step up, or a PMS is a step up, where you can be a niche player. You can say that, look, there are so many ways you can invest, but this is what we specialize in, and this is what we bring to the table. And essentially, I think, create a niche in, one of those areas. So I think that's where it stands. It does have its own advantages versus mutual fund in different ways. But I think the biggest advantage is that, the time horizon that you can bring in here, because your investors are different. One of the things someone mentioned to me very long ago was that your time horizon would depend on what your investors' time horizon is. So I think mutual funds cater to a particular segment. This caters more to people who are looking to, make wealth over 5 years, 10 years, and so on. So from that respect, my moving from, mutual fund platform to a very niche PMS platform has helped me. At Ambit, Ambit Asset Management is, one of the 4 businesses, the youngest business that this group has. And while it has a 10-year history, in the prior years, what happened was some of the teams transitioned. So you could say that in the last 4-5 years is when this firm's really come up. And from a very small 500 crore AUM, now we are reaching close to around 5,000 crore. Also, very recently, we've had some, big initiatives which have helped us. So Daiwa of Japan, which is, one of the largest bank there, they have a more than 20% stake at our holding company. They recently launched a Japanese-focused mutual fund, which we manage through the Gift City. So that fund alone is 1,600 crores. Also, on our fund side, we have seen good revival. we were amongst the early ones to come up with a very philosophy-based, focused strategy called Coffee Can, which now,
I'll
we've
definitely
been
come
able
to
to
that
revive.
as well, and we will deep
So,
dive into it along with
absolutely.
something else that I know.
Sure.
So in short, what I'm hearing, Siddharth, as your opening remark is, it's not about mutual funds or alternates or AIFs and or PMS. It is always about an and. Am I
Absolutely.
right in that direction?
Absolutely.
Thank you, Siddharth. So friends, just for everybody's knowledge, and let's just have some snippets as well, which get very easily lost. There are 1,550 registered AIFs in India today. 1,550. How many of you knew about it? I didn't know about it. I was Googling up and I officially checked the records. 1550. The overall alternates have grown by humongous 110% in last 1 year alone. Okay? So for everybody who's guessing, wondering, thinking, questioning, कि ये बढ़ रहा है क्या? कौन खरीद रहा है? कोई खरीद रहा है कि नहीं? ये सारे कुछ फैक्ट चेक हैं. क्योंकि हमारे ब्रेन में ना दोनों तरफ है. EQ भी है, IQ भी है. थोड़ा EQ, थोड़ा IQ भी ज़रूरत है. Data points की बहुत ज़रूरत है. So on that note, let me ask Bhavdeep. Bhavdeep, you and I have been colleagues from Aditya Birla days, and it's a fond thing to have you here. How has been your transition? You have also been on the mutual fund side, and now you're with Northern Arc as a CEO. What is this shift all about, and why Northern Arc?
Yeah, so thanks, Alok, for that question. And first of all, thank you, FFP, for kind of having us here and having this session for alternate industry. So Alok, I think I would agree with the point that my fellow panelists just mentioned, that AIF industry today is where mutual fund industry was, say, 20 years back, maybe 2005, 2006. Okay. And again, in terms of the growth, it has been like a phenomenal growth. Many people, the way just Alok mentioned about the number of AIFs in India right now, I don't know how many of you really know that AIF industry is currently 13.5 lakh crore industry. It has grown from 0 to 10 lakh crore in just 10 years time, from 2014 to 2024. The same thing for private sector mutual fund industry. It took about 30 years, right, to kind of reach that first 10 lakh crore AUM. And that's what AIF industry has been able to kind of grow in just first in last 10 years time alone. So that I think the industry has been growing pretty fast. Of course, the clientele or the people who have participated in this industry have been kind of more institutional so far, and more foreign investors than domestic investors. Pretty much like equity markets and equity market or the capital market space, right? The FI has kind of dominated to start with, and over time, kind of domestic investors have participated in this. Exactly like that, out of 13.5 lakh crore, roughly 75% of that AUM is foreign-led, particularly in the private in the private credit industry, which I am kind of representing, which is about 2,25,000 crore. So what I mentioned, 75% is for private credit, not for AIF in general. But this industry has been growing pretty fast, and it has its own role to play in investors' portfolio. I'm sure there will be a few questions along the way, so I'll keep it for that. But the transition point of view, yes, I mean, when I joined industry, it was very new. Yesterday, some of the panelists kind of mentioned in one of the sessions that we had to kind of explain to people why mutual fund is not a cheat fund, or why mutual fund will not take away your money and go, right? So we had to kind of talk about SEBI regulations and the trust setup and who are the trustees, very renowned names on that side. So that's where we had to kind of start. Luckily, in AIF industry at this point in time, we don't have to start with that kind of stage. But my belief is that there is a lot of awareness and education that is required for what AIFs can do in investors' portfolio, particularly HNIs and super HNIs portfolio. And the last point is that what excites me, Alok, you mentioned about the transition in these industries, that typically MFDs have 100 to say 300, 400 investors, typically, right? Some of you might be managing more than 1,000 investors as well. At least 5 to 10% of your customers would have a requirement, or would have eligibility, or would have an interest in investing in alternate investment funds. They, for all you know, they might be investing in AIF through some of the other channels. So point is that really knowing your clients well enough, which I'm sure you know, their appetites have gone up, the SIP investors who started kind of doing SIP 20 years back have become HNIs, and their requirements have changed, and so are the requirements of advisory and distribution as well. So my belief is that this industry is going to see a very strong growth over the next few years. Last 5 years has been growing at 31% CAGR against mutual fund industry, which is 18-19%. Of course, the bases are different, the starting points, but the growth rate has been phenomenally high, and my sense is the best is yet to come from this industry. So super excited for being a part of this industry.
Absolutely. Thanks, Bhavdeep. Vikas, thank you. Coming to you, you know, you have also been associated very deeply with the mutual fund industry for so many years, been part of Motilal Oswal group. And I know for a fact that when you had to make the shift, there were no two ways about it. You know, like, you know, mutual fund bhi thoda kare, thoda alternate bhi kare, thoda PMS. You are one of the very few ones who I feel moved in with complete clarity ke boss yehi hai. Please enlighten us as to where did that clarity come from?
So two things here, Alok. You know, before I start, I want to thank Kanak ji. उन्होंने ये सोचा कि एक AIF और PMS का अलग से सेशन होना चाहिए. म्यूचुअल फंड डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन फर्टिनिटी के अंदर एक AIF और PMS का एक सेशन होना चाहिए, पहली बात. दूसरा, वो ये भी आइडिएट कर रहे हैं, एंड क्रेडिट गोज टू ऑल द वोलेटिलिटी कोचेस अराउंड, जिन्होंने ये सोचा कि एक पर्टिकुलरली AIF PMS के लिए एक दिन अलग से दिसंबर में अलग से सेशन प्लान कर रहे हैं. तो बिग राउंड ऑफ अप्लॉज फॉर ऑल द वोलेटिलिटी कोचेस. आप लोगों ने इस एसेट क्लास को इतनी तवज्जो दी, इतनी इज्जत दी. वैसे मुझे ऐसा लगता है पर्टिकुलरली कि you know, after spending about 2 decades in the industry, Alok, and you know, I come from the same school of thought. What you said that, you know, when you started mutual fund, you used to say that it's not a cheat fund, it's a mutual fund. Same way, after spending 2 decades in the industry, one thing that I've realized is that this industry was highly scattered. You know, there were good, high quality portfolio managers, but they didn't had a kind of access to right-minded investors. And they were good quality family offices, ultra HNIs investor, but they didn't had an access to high quality portfolio manager. So I thought, and traditionally it used to be in the hand of large wealth management outfits. I don't want to name, but the large outfit managers will decide the future of a deserving portfolio manager. Because if he does not approve, then the deserving portfolio manager ghar pe baitha rahega. You know, so we wanted to break that. We wanted to see to it that how can I bring everybody on the same platform where you have all deserving portfolio manager and a like-minded investor coming together, and my job is done there. You know, शादी करवाने का काम है हमारा. So we are like a pandit. Our job is to get them married with each other. So very clear. And the other thing is, very quickly, I just want to tell you, since specifically you asked about it, that why only AIF PMS? So somewhere, you know, I learned that if you keep on doing same thing again and again, and you know, you would have heard a couple of CEOs speaking, you know, during various sessions in the last 20 years, that if you keep on doing one thing again and again, you tend to sort of develop expertise in one particular area. So in my organization, right from office boy who is filling up the form to myself as a founder, doing only one thing 10,000 times, 1 lakh time, 1 crore time, till the last breath of my life, will continue to do only one thing, which is to only focus on alternates, and alternates.
Outstanding. Somebody said a while ago, entertainment. Vikas ka motto hai alternates. Because you're at 650 crores of AUM. It's an enviable number. Like, what an inspiration for all of us. One more round of applause, please, for Vikas.
Thank you.
Coming quickly to Mr. Nitin. I know him since a while and a very dear friend. Friends, how many of you watch OTTs, Prime, Netflix, Z5, Sony? What if I tell you that a large part of the content that you and I are watching, जो हम देख रहे हैं, वो नितिन की बदौलत है, you know? And maybe I'll let Nitin only throw some light on substantiating what I'm saying. Over to you, Nitin. A little brief about what you do and your journey.
Thanks, Alok. See, in a nutshell, you know, going back to what Vikas said, you know, AIF as a space has been growing for the last 10 years. And under AIF itself, you know, you could say multiple products have come in. And you could say the biggest product is, you know, people try to focus on private credit in a very big fashion. In the last 5-7 years, we have seen private credit as a theme growing substantially. Of course, you add to it private equity, venture capital. All of that is a part of the generic pool of investments that people like to see in the AIF space. And we just thought from a perspective, India is the largest consumer of movies in the world and the largest manufacturer of movies in the world. And unfortunately, we don't have a fund that just looks at investing in this space. And we being ex-bankers, we have done that for a living over the last 15 years. And over the last 15 years, one thing which we have seen is, the uncertainty concerning the movie vertical has diminished substantially. Today, because of ancillary revenues, whether it is OTT, whether it is satellite revenues, whether it is music revenues, a movie getting the kind of capital or getting the revenues that it wants is substantially linear. So earlier, the uncertainty when you look at a movie in terms of only theatrical output has reduced substantially. And that is where we felt that, today there is a gap. And since non-theatrical revenues have become linear and in a good fashion, it is imperative that someone comes to fund that business.
Of course.
And that is the reason we thought, let's, participate in that activity and create a dedicated fund under the AIF umbrella who looks at financing in the space only for, the non-theatrical revenue. So we remove the uncertainty part of it. And we feel that even internationally, it is not that we are trying to do something completely out of the box in India. Internationally also, this trend is very prevalent. So if you look at the largest private equity funds, a substantial number of them, Alok, would really look at investing in the space and look at only rights and base, whether even if you look at it from a, hedge fund perspective or a private equity fund, they look at this asset class. So we thought in India, it's time to look at this asset class and invest it purely to ensure that, we give that kind of recognition for this asset class.
Friends, 60-70 साल पहले एक movie बनी थी शोले. Everybody has seen it here. Right? 50 years. They recently celebrated.
It was in
75, 76. Friends, I at least don't remember any other movie by the Sippies. If you remember, fantastic, we'll talk. Well, एक movie, IP, that was an IP, right? It is still an IP.
Absolutely.
That has been generating returns for 5 decades and the next generation and the next generation. So think of it, friends, from asset class, IP as an asset class in your client's portfolio. How does that sound? And especially where we are today in the world, OTTs and consumption and Z5s and the Prime, it's a no-brainer, right? Isn't it? All this while we never had access to IP as an asset class, but now thanks to Nitin, who has been doing it since 15 years, since Yes Bank days, we have an opportunity and an option over there. So dwell deeper into it. I'm going to come across very pertinent point, which I know everybody is listening to all of us, and yet yesterday everybody asked me the same question. Alok, what about the risk? Right? What about the risk? So somewhere, this whole correlation between risk and alternates is very prevalent. Because how do you deal with it with your clients? I'm sure you must have also got this pushback.
No, so my sense is that, we as a mutual fund distributor have made this perception that mutual fund to sahi hai, mutual fund hi sahi hai. But nobody is saying mutual fund hi sahi hai, mutual fund sahi hai. But AIF खराब है क्या? मेरा क्वेश्चन है आपसे. या PMS खराब है क्या? या किसी ने ऐसा बोला है क्या कि AIF खराब है या PMS खराब है? As far as risk is concerned, as a mutual fund distributor, I think each one of us are capable enough to evaluate, identify the kind of risk which is involved in the fund and the kind of fund that we need to give it to our clients. But what we do, we say, no. Baki sab kharab hai. Sir, whatever I am offering mutual fund, that is best. But, you would be surprised to notice, and when I do my own due diligence, some of you may be surprised to notice that some of the risk-adjusted PMSs have ended up delivering almost double than the mutual funds in the last 7 years. I don't want to take the name. The difference is as high as double. And some of the deserving AIF managers have sort of created at least 3 to 4% additional alpha with similar amount of risk. But we have made the perception as MFD that, mutual fund ही सही है and बाकी सब risky है. That's what I want to say. Thank you.
Outstanding, outstanding. Thank you. Bhavdeep, of all the alternates and the AIFs and all in the category, your particular fund, it deals with something called impact. Correct me if I'm wrong. Can you throw some more light in terms of what is that philosophy and how do you guys go about it?
Sure. Thanks, Alok. And let me just talk about impact funded. But before that, on this risk element, I think these are volatility coaches in our room. So I mean, in fact, they know the risk pretty well and how to kind of manage risk in their portfolio. But just one thing that came across as a very sharp perspective for me in last few days is that 40% of the retail mutual fund flows since 2021 have made zero return. And of course, it's just transitory over a period of time. It will kind of make a good amount of money for sure, equity as an asset class and mutual fund as a vehicle. All I'm trying to say is that there is definitely a way to kind of need for people to kind of look at other asset classes and other platforms for managing your clients' portfolio volatility. So there's just one part of it. Coming to Northern Arc, we are in impact investing. So essentially, we kind of make fixed income or debt available to underserved segment of the country, and we do it in a manner that kind of is commercially very, very viable. So far, over the last 17, 18 years that we have been in this business, both our NBFC arm as well as the AIF arm, we would have facilitated more than 10 crore loans, not directly, but through small NBFCs in India. And we have disbursed more than 170 lakh crore of loans and NCD investments over the last 17, 18 years. That's what we do. And in which segments do? We do it in the space of MSME funding, microfinance, it's agri-finance, climate finance, 2X, or what we call is gender neutrality. So we kind of enable women entrepreneurs with capital. And we do it all these in a manner which is commercially very, very viable. There is no grant available on this side, right? So over the last 10 years, the total NPA level we would be one of the top 10% in the industry if you look at all banks and NBFCs and AIFs put together. Because that is the kind of underwriting standards that we have been able to demonstrate. And with that, this is the impact. So profit with purpose is our motto at Northern Arc Group. And that's what we have been kind of standing by since the time we were founded in 2007, 2008. Some of you might know it as a IFMR. So earlier it was known as IFMR, based out of Chennai. And since 2017, 2018, it is rebranded as Northern Arc Group, Northern Arc NBFC as well as Northern Arc Investment Managers.
Very interesting. Thank you, Bhavdeep. Siddharth, your views on risk associated with alternates, more risky, less risky, at par?
Sure, yeah. So I kind of agree with, the way Vikas explained that, perhaps people have not really understood, on the AIF side or the PMS side, how many of these being niche, they actually go on in detail as to, kind of explain what are the risk differentials and so on. So I think this may be a little bit misplaced that people place a higher risk on this. In fact, I would go on to say that, in the last 2-3 years, this perception that mutual fund is, there's a preference for that versus this is on account of, I think, one key thing. Whenever there's a very hyper bull market, whether you look at 90 to 94, 2003 to 7, or, any such period, when market is very broad-based. In a broad-based market, if you have strategies where you buy 100 companies, 200 companies, 50, 60, or you are virtually doing everything, you're a supermarket, then, those strategies do better because in a bull market, there's so much of craziness happening that, in fact, if you're a small niche player, you may not correspond to where this kind of a thing is happening, and hence your returns could be different. I think the only reason AIFs and PMS has probably not got so much fancy in the last 3 years is because you have been seeing this kind of a thing. Last 1 year, returns have now become flattish to 2-3%. So I think I can already sense the shift because now that, that kind of a free or the fast money 40-60% return is not there. So, this whole thing about go further down and that may not work. The second thing I think which is most relevant for you all is that, when you forget about this evolving nature where, people will move to higher, you just take case of any of your investor. When an investor, say, has between 3 to 5 crore, his investing style is very different. The way he will approach markets, the kind of avenues he will seek will be very different. The moment the same person becomes a 15, 20, 30 crore plus, his entire way of investing will be very different. His focus on first protecting his capital becomes 10x more. And that is when you need very more niche players like AIF and PMS, because capital protection then for you becomes a key thing. And also, while there is a thinking that when you say capital protection, there is some kind of a belief that, okay, on the return side, you're expecting low. No. You want capital protection because you have evolved enough to realize that the only way to make superior returns in long term is to have an eagle eye on capital protection. That's why Warren Buffett said the rule number is never lose capital. So, these guys who have gone on to create wealth have now a big net worth. It's not that they are less, in the sense they are okay with lesser returns, or they are not ambitious, or they don't want higher returns. But, their thinking style changes. Like when I meet those guys, their thinking is, in 10 years, how do I, having a good risk-adjusted capital protection, make my money 6x or 10x? On 20 years, can I make my money into like 30x to 80x with taking very low return? So his objective has changed. And if you give him same prescription or the same medicine as to when his corpus was, say, between 1 to 5 crore, you may miss him because, now he needs something different, is the way I think about it.
Absolutely. I'm going to like sort of, go to Vikas and put across a very pertinent point. I've been to your Pune office and I've seen your Bombay office. The way you have expanded your team as well is really fantabulous. So how have you gone about picking them, grooming them? Because that will also be an inspiration to a lot of us here who have team members and they also want to sort of bring them in the ambit.
Right. So yesterday I heard Gurmeet, Ashish Bhai, everybody saying that Amit Biwalkar ji, all of them were asking what kind of money that you put in your business, 10%, 15%. I was sitting at the back. I didn't realize that I have been deploying 90% of my, 95% to be very precise, of my earning back in the business. So as I talk to you, we are 30 of us, started 4 years back. We are 30 of us now. And, Alok just talked about the numbers. Alok, so you said 1550, that's a good number. As I talk to you, this number has changed from 1550 to 1800 AIFs are registered in SEBI.
Wow.
In next 10 years, you will have nothing less than 5,000 AIFs getting registered in India. And we will not have any idea about it. As an MFD, we would feel that, those AIFs are good for nothing. So I think we need to build some expertise there, number one. Number two, the non-promoter, non-institutional. So in the last 10 years, India would have produced more than 65, 70 unicorns, so-called. Unicorn is $1 billion, the total valuations. How many investors that you have come across who has made money in that segment? Nobody? At least I've been running this and I have not met any single client who can say that. You know why? Because as an Indian investor, we were not prepared to participate in this unicorn journey while the FPIs were very much prepared. Because बोलते हैं लाइफ में चीज़ें दो बार होती है, एक बार दिमाग में, एक बार रियलिटी में. मैं ऐसा नहीं बोलता हूँ. मैं बोलता हूँ लाइफ में चीज़ें दो बार होती है, एक बार यूएस में और एक बार इंडिया में. So 2008, the whole investment, in alternate investment began post Lehman Brothers crisis. And from there were few early players who actually started this. And then the same trend is now getting transferred to India. So there is a value migration happening. And what Siddharth rightly said, the aspiration do not die. It gets postponed. For example, if I want to go to airport after half an hour, I'm using Ola, I have 2-3 options. मैं उसमें sharing car भी ले सकता हूँ, मैं उसमें एक अपने से अलग कार भी book कर सकता हूँ, and मैं उसमें से Excel भी ले सकता हूँ. I want Innova for me. But as an MFD, I am saying, no, you go to only share car. Innova में मैं जाऊँगा. आप उसमें जाओ. So I think somewhere we make this perception as MFD most of the time is that, I don't want if you don't give, then he will find somebody like us and then sit with him to go to the airport. भी उसको तो airport जाना है. So my submission to all the MFDs sitting here is that please start evaluating, because you have competition coming from all the large wealth outfits to an extent that they are hiring 1,000, 2,000 people in city like Bangalore. So my submission to all of you with the folded hand is to start doing some kind of study as far as AIF and PMS is concerned. Thank you.
Thank you, Vikas. That was superbly enlightening. So friends, anybody who's thinking of expanding and growing your business line, please definitely get in touch with Vikas. Of course, we all are here, but of course, he has seen the waters very closely. On that note, what I'm going to do is, of course, we can go on, but let's just pass the mic over to the audience, right? And I hope you all have questions. Yes, of course. We will come to you. I cannot see because of the light, but I'll request him to, sir, thoda sa, somebody else can do it.
Am I audible?
Yes, please.
So you talked about in the opening remark that mutual fund is commoditized now because AIF is in the initial stage. So if you can give some more basics like that 13.5 lakh crore AUM, if we categorize into category 1, 2, 3, pre-series, series A, so where the investment which is happening, one, and second, if we want to sell, because what is some minimum criteria for a client which is having an AUM of 5 crore, 10 crore, when we should offer alternatives, and what are all the risk and opportunities, particularly because what is that big benefit you will get it for alternative if somebody is to take a risk. So I think we need to get a little more understanding in layman's language how to sell alternative from a three USP perspective.
Okay, I think, sorry, I couldn't hear fully if you have been able. I think, am I right, you're asking what is the minimum ticket size, etc. available, what is the whole modus operandi?
The asset allocation.
To whom? The target audience. Somebody wants to take it up? That Siddharth can take it up, sir.
So, on your particular question as to whom you should aim AIFs at, or say the PMS, AIF, the minimum investment is 1 crore, PMS is 50 lakh. If you are a registered, if you are a qualified investor, obviously it comes down. So I would believe that, when you look at an investor, the fact that you're asking him to put 1 crore at one, you should look for investors who have at least 10 crores plus to recommend a AIF or something. And that's where it becomes more relevant for that person. So one of the reasons why people assume that there's higher risk here is, say, assuming someone has 2-3 crores as a total corpus, and you make him invest disproportionately in one particular thing, then risk of not allocating properly is a issue, because say if it's 40-50% of someone's portfolio, and if it doesn't do, the impact would be more. So typically, between 4-5 such instruments is how you should diversify. So then it becomes a issue of not diversifying enough. So anything above 10 crores to my mind is a good this thing for AIFs. For PMS, it could be a bit less, more like a 5-6 crore plus. Yeah.
I'm also going to, while we are on the topic, I think the big conversation going on around is around accredited investors, AI, the other AI, not the artificial intelligence, right? So do we see that as a game changer moment as well for the industry?
Yeah, so accredited investors are typical investors who are sophisticated investors. They have a particular threshold of net worth and annual income. So I think it's 7.5 crore and 50 lakhs, or 1 crore and 5 crore. So these are two criteria that they have. And any investor who has that kind of net worth and or income can get themselves as registered as accredited investor. And for that, for this set of investors, the minimum investment amount is not 1 crore and 50 lakhs for AIF and PMS respectively, but it can be lower than that. For example, in AIF, it can be as low as 10 lakh rupees for this set of investors. So minimum 1 crore is applicable only for non-accredited investors. For accredited investors, the minimum amount goes down. Now, there's a huge debate simply because if you want to really retailize or kind of make this product available to larger number of people in India, this accreditation is very, very important. And there are there is a concept paper which SEBI has recently circulated, and as per which they are going to make this process of accreditation a lot more easy compared to what it is right now. There is a minimum you have to kind of pay something for that. It's a multi-week process. At times it takes 8 to 10 weeks to get yourself registered as accredited investor. They are kind of making it easy for, proposing to make it easy for people to register as accredited investor. But yes, that will open up the product. Siddharth mentioned that 10 crore. I totally agree that for non-accredited investors, less than 10 crore net worth, investing in AIF doesn't make sense. They need to have minimum diversification, and therefore 10 crore becomes the threshold. But with accredited investors, accreditation, I think even at a lower net worth value, it might be useful for them to participate in AIF.
Thanks, Baldeep. I think there are a couple of questions here, and I think, how much time do we have? Last question.
Manoj Munot from Pune. The question is to Nitin, NV. Basically, when you invest the AIF in movies, what you see in movies, because we see it as a gamble always, but really hats off, you are doing a great job there.
See, very good question. See, I'm just taking a cue from what Vikas said. See, even if you look at the whole scene of, I'll just go slightly one step behind. If you look at the whole scene of global volatility, when markets were divided only equity and bonds, now if you look at it, people want a bit of alternatives in your sector. So whether you like it or not, you have to put it. Now in alternatives, you've got multiple themes that you go. Generally, people always look at private equity as one, venture capital as one. The last 5 years, private credit has become a very big theme. Now, private credit internationally, if it is such a big theme, in India, it's double in terms of size. Because capital in general, because I've been a banker, capital in general in India is very scarce. And in my industry, it's all the more scarce. And that is the fundamental reason we thought that this is a huge gap. The alpha that we can generate is substantially higher in a private credit with the least amount of risk. At the end of the day, you want to ensure returns with the least amount of risk. And that is the reason why we have curated a product in such a way that we have taken out the uncertainty or the riskiest part, which is connected only to theatricals. We have removed that completely out, and we have only focused on the ancillary part of the revenue stream. And because the ancillary part of the revenue stream is, to a certain extent, the cash flow visibility and the fructification of cash flows is very certain. And that is when we thought we'll take the plunge only in that sector.
So
and
just
that
to, sorry.
And
just
that,
to, sorry,
yeah,
sorry.
Good, sorry. Please. Yeah, and that is how we try to structure a product in such a way that when we know that, there is cash flow visibility, the only thing is the time gap. And we are bridging only the time gap. And we get into that process of, giving capital only on the basis of time gap.
So Manoj ji, imagine a complex in Hinjewadi, जहाँ पे building बन गई है, land acquisition तो सब कुछ पहले ही हो गया है, flats तैयार हैं, developer खाली बोल रहे हैं मेरे ready flats के against मुझे funding कर दो, इतना ही है. So what is the risk over there is what you and I need to sit and assess. Am I right?
Absolutely. And probably if you want further this, we've got a stall there. You all can come. I'll give you further inputs on that.
Everybody is here, and I know there are more questions and more thoughts. I think I'm glad that today's objective was achieved. A lot of questions which came to us since 2 days have kind of, been answered. We have requested Kanak to have a dedicated alternates conference. आप भी please request करिए, वो आपकी सुनेंगे, right?
I think Vikas can really push forward. He's really a bellwether for this.
Yeah, so he's going to be the torch bearer.
Yes, absolutely.
So Alok, why don't you also conclude and share your wisdom of last 20 years, how AIF and PMS is shaping up?
Absolutely, Vikas, and we would love to have you with us. Jate
closing. Alok, Vikas was asking, what is your thoughts of the...
उसी पे आ रहा था, दोनों एक साथ ले रहा था. दोस्तों, जब मैं बड़ा हो रहा था ना, I grew up in Calcutta. My father was a big fan of Satyajit Ray and Aparna Sen movies and all. Okay. एक डॉक्टर की मौत, सलीम लंगड़े पे मत रो, सलाम बॉम्बे, एटसेट्रा. और मैं मम्मी को पूछता था, मम्मी ये कौन सी पिक्चर है, ना शाहरुख खान है, ना ऋतिक रोशन है, ये क्या देखने जा रहे हो? बोलते बेटा वो थोड़ी पैरेलल सिनेमा है, ऑल्टरनेट सिनेमा है. ठीक है, तो दोस्तों वो ना 80s 90s का टाइम था, जब आप लोगों ने भी शायद ऐसी मूवीज देखी होगी, पाथेर पांचाली, सम पीपल हु कम फ्रॉम कैलकाटा वुड बी एबल टू रिलेट विद इट. दोस्तों वो ऑल्टरनेट्स ना उस टाइम का, आज की तारीख में नेटफ्लिक्स प्राइम खोलेंगे ना, सब मेन स्ट्रीम हो गया. तो सबसे पहले तो मुझे पर्सनल लेवल पे टू आंसर विकास क्वेश्चन, ऑल्टरनेट्स जो वर्ड है ना वो मिसनॉमर है, उस नाम को सबसे पहले तो चेंज करना पड़ेगा, राइट? क्योंकि वो ऑल्टरनेट नहीं है, वो इट्स अ मेन पार्ट ऑफ योर मेन थाली। वो रोटी है, दाल है, चावल है, पर अचार तो डेफिनेटली नहीं है। मुझे खाली इतना ही कहना था, राइट? सो वी विल वर्क टुवर्ड्स इट एंड
That's well
वी
said,
आर
that's well
वर्किंग
said.
टुवर्ड्स इट। दोस्तों 15 लाख करोड़ प्लस की इंडस्ट्री हो गई है। गो बैक एंड गूगल, थोड़ा होमवर्क करिए, चेक करिए म्यूचुअल फंड इंडस्ट्री को कितना समय लगा था 15 लाख करोड़ पहुंचने में, और ऑल्टरनेट्स ने वो ना 1 साल में 100% जंप मारा है। लास्ट में एज अ शुभचिंतक एक ही चीज कहूंगा, फाइनल थिंग, हम नहीं करेंगे और मैं भी अपने आप को इसमें इंक्लूड कर रहा हूं तो कोई और डेफिनेटली करेगा। द चॉइस इज आवर्स। थैंक यू सो मच।
Thank you so much. I think very well summarized by Alok. So, friends, can we give a bigger round of applause for
you,
Bhavdeep,
thank you.
Vikas, Nitin, and Siddharth? So, to felicitate them, I would like to call upon Manoj ji, VC of Pune, and Jairaj Kadam from Bangalore. Ajay ji. Be on the stage.